Hey everyone, what's up? Uri for Guerrilla Poker with another high stakes hand history review. We're gonna get into two hands and yeah, let's go. Okay, so here we have 206 big blinds deep, and you guys can see Nacho actually has 564 big blinds. Nice life. So Nacho raises button to 240, Korean Monkey 3-bets to 150, and Nacho calls. And I already mentioned in a previous video, sizings here are not terribly important. What's more important is understanding the range interactions on the boards and things like this. So we get an ace-10-3 rainbow board, and instantly Korean Monkey checks. And you guys might find this surprising, because very often we say this is a board that the guy can bet his entire range on. So why is he checking, right? First of all, just because someone can does not mean that's the best play. Very often high-stakes players or poker players in general pick simple strategies, like betting their entire range, because they're easy to understand. But there are, any bet size you take almost on a flop that's in a reasonable range is gonna do fine in terms of expected value, and anything larger than a small bet will not have you betting your entire range. So maybe Korean Monkey approaches this board with a different bet sizing scheme. And, if I have ace king, personally, I would rather bet bigger than third pot. Like, third pot is a size that's good for my, pocket jacks or king 10 suited or hands like this. Kind of implies what his strategy is. And then when he checks, he's gonna have kind of the center of his range, hands that are not super interested in betting flop. So you're gonna have some kings, queens, jacks, probably decent amount of pocket nines, pocket eights. Pocket nines, pocket eights are like the worst hands probably to bet here. And then kind of a smattering of everything else. Some traps, some good stuff, some weak stuff, some give up, some gut shots. Everything's mixed in there when you check in modern day poker. So he checks, Nacho bets smallish, and Korean Monkey calls. And this small bet is, you always have to think which hand is going to be put in a tough spot by this bet. And in that sense, I'm not sure I love the bet size. Because is this to make eights fold? Maybe this is to make eights, nines fold. Something like that. So turn jack of clubs. We see a check. A jack of clubs. Nice card for Korean Monkey in that he has jacks. I assume both players have king queen here sometimes, so it's an equity shifting card. It's not super dramatic in any way. I guess Korean Monkey also turns gut shots with pocket kings and pocket queens, which is also nice for him. So river 8 of hearts. Korean Monkey bets small, and if we're thinking, what is the center of the range that bets small on this run out? Probably, pocket kings, pocket queens, ace 4 suited, somewhere around that, I would imagine. So he bets small, Nacho raises him, looks like a pot-sized raise. Korean Monkey calls, and we see the showdown with Nacho having ace 10 off. So we want to look through the action. Bet flop looks good, pre-flop is good. Turn, I personally would have like to see him firing ace 10. I can see the check. It's a bit between a trap and a pot control line, right? Where you check back ace 10 and you want to see the river kind of coming clean, and then you can put big money in and you dodge putting money in on like a king or a queen where, your hand isn't that good anymore. Yeah, on these really connected boards, we do sometimes see these strong two pairs checking back. This is a thing, just so you guys know. And the logic is, the board is so connected, let's maybe wait until the river, be sure how strong my hand is, and then decide how much money to put in, right? Like, I'm in position, so I have this luxury of seeing the river, and I can always bet huge on the river or raise a bet on the river, and that's exactly what happens here. Kind of cool concept. And Korean Monkey shows up with pocket eights. So pocket eights, we were saying, or I was saying, is kind of, pocket eights, pocket nines, the center of the checking range, the hands that are going to check the most often in a checking range. Nacho's bet gives them a tough time. That means, they sometimes fold, sometimes call against this bet, probably something like that. Turn check, check. River is interesting in that, he puts pocket eights into the small size. We talked about, pocket kings, pocket queens, ace four, etc. being there. So this is kind of a trap. He's protecting the small size so that Nacho cannot cleanly raise for value and not get punished. Kind of works out for him here. I guess nothing too much to say about it. We're not going to nitpick into, is this the correct hand to do this with? I think Nacho's play makes sense. Korean Monkey's play makes sense sometimes. Probably eights has been a wanted bet bigger more often than this size. Maybe it's going to check raise sometimes, but certainly reasonable. You want to throw in these traps into small sizing sometimes. Okay, next hand, and we have another hand with, I think this is still Nacho if I'm not mistaken, Ignacio Morales. So MP raises to 440, cutoff 3 bets to 1400, and MP calls. So we have a cutoff versus hijack 3-bet pot. 8-6 deuce two-tone board. In terms of board properties, it's two-tone. It has the 8 and the 6 that the caller is going to hit more than the 3-better. The deuce that the caller is going to hit more than the 3-better. It has no high cards, so it's not terrible by any means, but as far as flops go, this is not really a bet. Close your eyes and bet everything flop. It's more of a, be careful at least some of the time type of board. So Ignacio bets half potish, which makes sense, right? Gets raised small, decides to call. Raising range here is usually trying to put ace-king in a tough spot. So it can be a bit merged in that sense. It can certainly have 9s or 7s or various hands like this, as well as a million bluffs that you guys can see. So turn king of diamonds. Who's the king of diamonds good for? The 3-better, obviously. And on the king of diamonds, the guy who check raised should be slowing down a ton. All of his hands like jacks, 10s, 9s, 7s, 8x, all these kind of thin protection-y hands have to shut down, and then all he has is sets and draws, and those probably want to go along with the rest of his range and just check almost always. And here, Sindre, I don't know how to pronounce it, so we'll call him hijack. Hijack bets small. Inappropriate bet size for the situation. Like we said, your betting range is draws and sets, so you should probably bet big. I mean, bet kind of, this is what they call a geometric bet size. Bet the same proportion that you would leave on the river, so maybe half pot turn and then half pot shove river. Those are the highest EV sizings for very nutted ranges. There's no reason to go for this block size. This block size implies that you're maybe betting your 9s, but you can't bet your 9s. So don't do this. In my opinion. It's not a big deal. I'm just nitpicking on these guys. This is not losing you much money or anything. It's just, him not understanding the situation probably. Okay. So, either be that as it may, he bets, he gets called, river 3 of hearts. Sindre shoves for 2/3 pot. Ignacio calls, and we see the hands. Sindre showing up with 8s, so, good check raise. Turn, like I said, I'd probably check a lot. If I bet, I'd bet bigger. River definitely shove at this point, but yeah, overall fine. Nothing wrong with his hand in a vacuum. And Ignacio's play, if you look at his hand, ace-king, sometimes bet, sometimes check back on the flop. Probably always call or raise with the ace of clubs, right? Ace-king with no club would maybe mix in some folds. Turn, you turn the king. If you're facing a small bet, of course, you have to call. And river, when you face a shove, is certainly trickier because you have to think, what is my opponent's value range? And, if it sets, the hand is not a slam dunk call. Not as slam dunk of a call as it might look. Right? Ace-king is potentially foldable here. Of course, if you think Sindre could have king-queen of clubs and just go with it, which is maybe reasonable. Like I said, it's not how I would play the hand, but maybe some people do. Then you do kind of have to go with ace-king. And I think due to that uncertainty principle, where maybe he goes with king-queen of clubs, maybe he check raises his own ace-king and barrels off. I feel like in Ignacio's shoes, you kind of have to close your eyes and call ace-king and mix in folds with some weaker hands, like queens. But this is not an exciting spot by any means. You are mostly bluff catching with ace-king. Yeah, I think hand was played relatively fine by both. We'll wrap up the video there. Like and subscribe to the channel. Check out my new course, Elite Cash Game Exploits. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video.